Probably one of the best parts of the NHL Awards this year, the last joke of the night, referencing Austin Matthews. At least the Leafs finally won something in June. Hello, friends. Welcome to this week's episode of Habs Hockey Report right here on the All Habs Hockey Magazine YouTube channel. So glad you're here with us this week. If you are a new viewer, go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you really look forward to hearing about the Habs, the Laval Rocket, Montreal prospects. We're glad to have you along for the ride. We've got a great show for you today. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the NHL Awards. We're going to talk about that Shea Weber trade. And we've got some great responses to last week's feedback forum question. I can't wait to share some of those with you. A couple of heartfelt stories, some favorite memories that fans had of hockey and their dads. So we will get to that in just a little bit. This week's feedback forum question, and if you're new to the show, I ask you a question every week called our feedback forum question, and I invite you to leave your answer to the question down in the comments section below, and then next week on the show, we'll read and talk about some of your responses. So this week's feedback forum question, with the NHL Awards taking place this week, how do you feel about Cole Caufield not getting the Calder? And I'll take that even one step further and say didn't even make the top 3 selections for the Calder. But fans seem to be pretty divided on this. Some feel that he was deserving of the Calder because of the resurgence that he had in the second half of the season. Others say, hey, no, he really only showed up for half the season, so that kind of doesn't put him into a top 3 status or particularly to win the Calder. So what are your thoughts on it? Do you think Cole Caufield got robbed, or do you think it was pretty accurate the way things turned out for the Calder? Leave your comment down below. Can't wait to see what you have to say on this one. We now have a community tab here at the All Habs Hockey Magazine YouTube channel. We're going to have polls. We're going to have some images. At times, for certain events, we'll have some behind the scenes stuff. You definitely want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on that new community tab. Let's get right into our Habs happenings. And boy, within the last week, a big move, big headlines for the Montreal Canadiens. We've talked about this on past weeks about what Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton need to tackle in the offseason. And one of those was pretty much one of the first big moves that they made this summer, and that was trading away Shea Weber's contract. The trade went down late last week that traded Shea Weber to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for forward Evgeny Dadonov. And now, really, it's a win-win. Remember, Dadonov was the guy that back at the trade deadline, Vegas tried to trade, and it kind of backfired because apparently the Ottawa Senators hadn't disclosed, and NHL Central Registry wasn't aware that Dadonov had a no trade clause of a no move to certain teams. And they tried to trade him to Anaheim, and Anaheim was one of the places that was in his no trade. So the league eventually ruled that, yes, the trade couldn't go through. And so Dadonov ended up spending the rest of the season there in Vegas. So this was kind of like take 2 on the Dadonov trade for them. So it's obviously a player they've been trying to move, and Vegas was willing to take Shea Weber's, the bulk of the remainder of Shea Weber's contract to help Montreal out, which, you know, it's still up in the air as to whether or not they're going to need to use any of their LTIR space for any of Carey Price's contract, because it's still a question mark as to how long he's going to continue to be able to play. So A big move for Kent Hughes. This was something that absolutely needed to get done in order to make room for planning for the rest of the summer, planning for the rest of the moves, giving him a little bit of wiggle room. So Dadonov is a 33-year-old forward coming back in the trade. He's played 78 games with the Knights, Golden Knights this past season, with 43 points in those games, 20 goals and 23 assists. We'll see. Kent Hughes says he doesn't have an intention to trade Dadonov again before the season starts, but you never know, particularly in an offseason like the Canadiens are going to have. It's still not a guarantee that Dadonov is going to suit up in the CH come this fall and training camp. So we'll keep an eye on that. Our best to Shea Weber. It's funny. The last time a captain got traded, it was Max Pacioretty to the where? Oh, the Vegas Golden Knights. It's kind of where Habs captains go after their tenure lately. But we wish the best to Shea Weber. It's not expected that he's going to play hockey again. His injuries are just far too, as Kent Hughes said, debilitating for him to probably ever play again. So this is a good move. It's a win-win for both organizations. Shea Weber, as you'll see here on the screen, writing a message to fans saying, "Growing up playing hockey in Canada, it's every kid's dream to play in the NHL. I consider myself extremely fortunate to have not only done that, but to have had a chance to do so for a Canadian team and a member of the original six. Never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined playing for, let alone being named captain of, the Montreal Canadiens. Pulling on that legendary jersey every night was one of the greatest honors of my career, and it's something I appreciated every chance I got. I want to thank my teammates, coaches, trainers, management, the entire organization, Jeff Molson and the Molson family, the Montreal media, and most of all, the fans for embracing me and my family and for making the city feel like a second home. Montreal will always be in my heart." And a little thank you in French at the end as well. So a tip of the hat to Shea Weber. He was a tremendous captain for the Montreal Canadiens, moving on probably to the next stages in his life and his career. And we wish him all the best. Who's next? Will it be Petrie? Will it be Josh Anderson? Will it be Jonathan Drouin? Those are all guys that are definitely available. Kent Hughes again saying repeatedly that he doesn't intend to trade Josh Anderson, even though he's getting a lot of calls on him. But he said that about Arturi Lehkonen as well. And eventually Joe Sakic gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. So Petrie's contract is one that needs to go. And quite frankly, in my opinion, Jonathan Drouin's contract needs to go as well. And those three are just kind of the three big names right now. There's plenty of other options on the table for guys that could be moved this summer. So it will be very interesting to see, now that Shea Weber's contract has been moved, what is the next big move that Kent Hughes makes. And I imagine that there's going to be at least one or two leading up to the first round of the NHL entry draft. So coaching. The coaching carousel is another thing that's been the big moves throughout the summer. This past week, we saw John Tortorella find a new home in Philadelphia with the Flyers. I personally think that's a great fit, and I'm really excited to watch the entertainment that is going to be Torts in Philly. Also totally here for the Torts and Gritty relationship. I mean, that's just going to be tremendous. Pete DeBoer finding a home, landing in Dallas. That's going to be, I think, a good fit as well. Probably one of the more surprising ones was the Florida Panthers hiring Paul Maurice, who stepped away from the Winnipeg Jets early in the season this year. And Paul Maurice resurfacing in Florida. Now, keep in mind, their interim head coach was a Jack Adams finalist this year because of the work that he did after Quenneville left the organization. And still, even though under that interim tag, he was a Jack Adams finalist, and they made it. They had a really good season. They could have absolutely contended for a deeper Stanley Cup run, but that wasn't enough to just automatically hand him the permanent coaching position. And so Florida went out. They did their due diligence. They interviewed who was available, and sure enough, they decided look, Andrew Brunette has done a great job for us this year, but we see Paul Maurice as the guy to really take this organization to the next step in the future. The other interesting thing, so there's 4 other head coaching positions still available: Boston, Detroit, Chicago, and Winnipeg. Chicago has interviewed Luke Richardson twice. He's made it through 2 rounds of interviews for the Chicago Blackhawks head coaching position. I personally think Luke Richardson, I think any team would be receiving a tremendous coach in Luke Richardson. We have heard guys speak many times over the last couple of years how they would, quote, run through a wall for Luke Richardson as a coach. He's a very knowledgeable, experienced coach, very good behind the bench. So it's unsure yet as to whether or not he'll be returning as one of St. Louis' assistants if he gets a head coaching position somewhere else. So interesting to keep an eye on for sure. A little bit of fun and a little bit of news coming into the preseason for this coming season already. Yeah, that's right. We get to start talking about next season, right? 2 preseason games for the Montreal Canadiens going to take place against the Ottawa Senators. Well, that's nothing new, right? Well, the location will be. For the past 2 years, the Kraft Hockeyville celebration has been postponed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so this year, both the 2020 winners of Kraft Hockeyville and the 2021 winners will have the Montreal Canadiens and Ottawa Senators visit their hometowns and rinks for that preseason NHL game that is part of being a winner of Kraft Hockeyville. So you see right there on your screen, October 6th, they will be in Newfoundland to celebrate the 2020 winners, playing the Habs versus the Senators. And then 2 days later, they scoot over to New Brunswick for a preseason game on October 8th. So it's not unusual for the Habs and the Sens to be playing each other in the preseason, but they're going to have some different crowds and different fans and a different environment to play in as they get to be part of the Kraft Hockeyville celebration, which is pretty fun. We did mention a couple of minutes ago, that Kent Hughes might be making some moves up to the entry draft. Well, that really is the kind of the big thing on the calendar right now, is the NHL Draft being hosted in Montreal finally after a couple of years of postponement, and they get that much coveted first overall pick. Well, there's lots of talk about who is it going to be? Is it going to be Shane Wright? Is it going to be Uri Slafkovsky? Is it going to be Logan Cooley? And so, I got a chance this past Saturday to join Rick Stevens on the Canadiens Connection podcast, also part of All Habs Hockey Magazine. And we had a chance to sit down with probably the top expert when it comes to prospects in the NHL Draft, Sportsnet's own Sam Cosentino. We sat down with him for a really, really fun interview and a really insightful interview. Sam talks to us about all 3 of those top projected guys, Slafkovsky, Cooley, and Shane Wright. Talks a little bit about what he sees as potential for the later first-round pick, the 26th overall pick that the Canadiens had. Offers some anecdotes from the NHL Scouting Combine, all sorts of fun. It's a tremendous interview. I invite you to just click the link up above. Check that out. It's the second segment of the most recent episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast. You won't regret it, and it's a lot of great insight on what could happen in the first round of the draft. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the NHL Awards finally wrapped up this week, and there were some surprises. McDavid not walking away with anything, but I think in a lot of categories, I think fans were pretty much expecting and could agree with who ended up being the winner. We see here the Hart Memorial Trophy going to Austin Matthews. It was one of 2 awards that he won on the night. In addition, the Norris Trophy went to Cale Makar. Cale Makar still, his season hasn't ended, and he's still doing some pretty tremendous things. The Vezina going to the New York Rangers goaltender Igor Shesterkin. Shesterkin with such a strong season this year, certainly deserving of that Vezina trophy. And then we come to the Calder, and this is part of the feedback forum question this year. Hands down, I absolutely agree that Moritz Seider deserved the Calder this year. He's just been a tremendous force to be reckoned with, and this young man has nowhere to go but up. And so congratulations to all of the winners in the NHL Awards this year. There were some who were wondering, is Cole Caufield, with the resurgence that he had in the second half of the season after St. Louis took over, would that be enough for him to really get a good look in the Calder running? And did he deserve to be in the running, seeing as really the scope of his performance really only came at the end of the season? In the scoring, in the balloting, which is always made public, he received 1 third-place vote, 6 fourth-place votes, and 8 fifth-place votes. So no one in the voting took him as a first or second-place candidate. Only one person took him as a third-place candidate, and those are made public. It was Renan Lavoie who gave him the third-place nomination. And then, as I say, six fourth place selections and 8 fifth place. So not even close, really. He had a total of, I think, about 63 points or so, came in about fifth or sixth place in the running. And so that really is, that feedback form question for you this week is, do you think he got robbed? Do you think he should have been higher in the standings and closer to winning the Calder? Or do you think this was pretty accurate, that, maybe if Dom Ducharme hadn't been there, he would have had a full, really productive season and would have earned being a serious contender for taking the Calder, but that since that didn't happen and the way he performed, that this was accurate. Really interested to see what you think about that. Interestingly enough, he was also included a few times in the all-rookie voting. He did not make the all-rookie team. That goes to Jeremy Swayman, Alexander Carrier, Moritz Seider, Michael Bunting, Lucas Raymond, and Trevor Zegras. But Caufield did have, I want to say, like around 8 votes or so for the all-rookie team. Speaking of awards, Youppi getting a little recognition this week. You see him there celebrating as he was inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame this past week. A little overdue. I was actually kind of surprised that Youppi wasn't in the Hall of Fame already. You see he and his friends there. Even the guy from the Harlem Globetrotters is there, and some of them sporting their Hall of Fame rings. Very fun, and congratulations, Mr. Youppi, for being a Hall of Famer. That's pretty exciting. I think it will come as no surprise in the Rocket Booster segment this week that it's a little quiet around the Laval Rocket these days. They're just a week out of their season coming to an abrupt end. And so, as would be expected, news is kind of all quiet on the Laval front right now, as the team, as the players, coaches, the staff all kind of take a breath and get away from it all a little bit. We expect that news from Laval will start to heat up again here as the next couple of weeks progress. Of course, we'll have all of the latest for that as signings start to happen, or trades and things of that nature. But that doesn't mean that there's not necessarily AHL related news that we can bring to you. Just a couple of items. First off, so the Springfield Thunderbirds were the ones who eliminated the Laval Rocket. They've now gone on to face the Chicago Wolves in the Calder Cup final. That series is currently 2-1 in favor of the Chicago Wolves, who shut out the Springfield Thunderbirds on Wednesday night in Massachusetts. So Chicago putting a 4-0 shutout last night. In game 2, they won that one 6-2, and really the two goals for Springfield were kind of a gift. In fact, interestingly enough, we saw there's a big controversy with Nazem Kadri's overtime goal in the Stanley Cup playoffs to put the Avs up 3-1 in the series on Wednesday night. Controversy as to whether or not the officials missed a too many men call at the end. And John Cooper, after the game, really working hard to restrain himself and not say anything that could maybe cause controversy or get him in trouble. Kind of really working hard to bite his lip about his commentary about whether or not that goal should have been allowed. In the AHL and the Calder Cup finals, Ryan Warsofsky, head coach of the Chicago Wolves, not as restrained after game 2. Even though his team blew out Springfield in that game, Warsofsky was not pleased with the officiating in that game at all, and really kind of let loose a little bit in his post-game media, so much so that the league handed down an undisclosed fine for his public comments post-game. So interesting that both at the NHL and the AHL level, there's been some officiating controversy and some coaches trying, not always successfully, but trying not to take too much heat for their comments. Also, just a reminder, next year the AHL gets a new franchise. When the Seattle Kraken's AHL franchise takes on its identity and officially enters the league. They are the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Very exciting. There will now, of course, then be 32 teams in the AHL to match the 32 NHL teams. And this week, the Seattle Kraken and Coachella Valley Firebirds announced their first franchise head coach. And would you believe, you'll know this name, Dan Bylsma, getting the bench boss job for the franchise's first head coach in history. Bylsma was an assistant coach with the Charlotte Checkers this year. That was a split affiliation with the Florida Panthers and also the Seattle Kraken. So he's basically being promoted from his assistant's position in Charlotte to getting the full-time head coaching position in Coachella Valley. That's going to be a well-coached team, can tell you that. So congratulations to Dan Bylsma. Well, last but certainly not least, it's time for the Habs Fan Hub. This is the part of the show where we get to hear from you. We get to talk to you. You get to talk to us. You get to make your voice heard as a fan of the Montreal Canadiens. I adore this segment. I really do. I love to hear all of your thoughts, your perspectives, your memories, everything. And we've got some great interaction for you today. First and foremost, though, I do want to remind you that the All Habs mailbag here at Habs Hockey Report is always open. If you have a question about the Habs, about the Laval Rocket, about Habs prospects, about the draft coming up, anything related to hockey, just drop that question in the comments section down below, and I will absolutely be happy to answer that in an upcoming episode when we open up the All Habs mailbag to hear what you have to say and things that you have questions about. So just a reminder, the All Habs mailbag is always open. Drop us a question. Now, of course, as I mentioned in the first segment and at the top of the show, this week's feedback forum question, I'll remind you one more time. Do you think... what do you think of Cole Caufield not getting the Calder trophy this year and frankly not even placing in the top 3? Do you agree with it or no? And tell us why you agree with it or don't agree with it. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. Last week, in honor of Father's Day, our feedback forum question was simply to ask you to share with us your favorite hockey memory with your dad. And if not a dad, maybe an uncle or a grandfather, just a father-like figure in your life and your family that you have a favorite hockey memory from. We had some really great responses to this, really heartwarming. And there were 2 of them that I just wanted to read to you today. The first comes from Réjean, and he actually submitted his answer en français. And so you see that there. I am going to use the handy dandy Google Translate to bring you the translation of what Réjean had to say. And he says, "My father didn't like the Canadiens, so I took my elder brother's example and became a fan of the Blackhawks and Bobby Hull." He says, "Yes, I'm a prehistoric man. My real happy sports memories with my father are: 1, he was always my coach in hockey and baseball. He was involved in minor sports and coached my club," which I think that's really special. I think that's pretty cool. Every kid loves those early sports memories, and to have your dad directly involved has to make that even more special. And 2, long car rides listening to the Expos on the radio. That's also very fun. That's a very father-son kind of bonding thing. I bet Yuppie's happy to hear that one, that you were listening to the Expos on the radio with your dad. Rajan, thanks so much for your answer. Those are some tremendous memories to hang on to when it comes to your dad and hockey and sports. We also heard from Dino, and Dino has a great story to tell. He says, growing up here in Ottawa, hockey was our life. Dad loved sports, especially hockey, especially Jean Beliveau, Pocket Rocket, Guy, Jacques Plante, Dryden, and others from the Montreal Canadiens. Games started at 8 p.m. back then. We had school the next day. We would go to bed not knowing the final score. In the morning, me and my two smaller brothers would try and wake up early before Dad went to work. If we were lucky, we would catch him shaving. We'd ask him with childish anticipation and excitement or in trepidation, what was the score, Dad? Did we win? Always hoping to hear that the CH won. He often would play tricks on us and say, oh, Toronto 2, Montreal 1. We would be devastated, forlorn, and sad. But before he would leave for work, he would then tell us the true score, Montreal 2, Leafs 1. We would jump with joy, happy all day and night. The universe was right again. Till the next time. We will always remember those moments of our childhood with our dad. He's with the Montreal Canadiens heroes now. Boom Boom, Jean Beliveau, Guy, and everyone else. Thanks, Amy, for such a nice podcast and the opportunity for interaction and sharing. Dino, thanks so much. What a tremendous story. I really like that your dad was a trickster. And no, sorry. They lost. They beat the Leafs last night, and I can only visualize the letdown of they lost, and then these three little boys cheering with excitement to find out, nope, Dad's just playing a trick on you. What a great memory, and thank you so much for sharing. We always appreciate hearing from all of you. Again, we can't wait to keep bringing you this show each and every week. Thank you to all of our new subscribers. We keep getting just piles and piles of new subscribers every week as people are discovering our show. If you would like to help us with that and help grow the community, hit that share button. If you missed last week's show, which was full of the Laval Rockets exit interviews, then you can watch that right there, and we'll see you next Thursday on Habs Hockey Report.